Sobre creadores y sus formas. Ante todo, dueños de una entraña artística hecha expresión. Bienvenidos a Sobrepensar, una pieza lúdica de Hache De Henry en complot con The Thinkers.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
I've always considered that the filmmaking and motion picture in general is among the most beautiful arts. Perhaps because it is the perfect mix of so many other arts. Maybe because a good audiovisual piece has the power to hypnotize as a few things can do. Today, I'm pleased to talk with a filmmaker with a vertiginous style, whose work comes with a parental advisory label, and a director that tells stories in short films, video clips, and narrative for advertisement. I'm pleased to talk to you, Cédric. Welcome to Sobrepensar.
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure. So obviously it would be really pretentious if I was saying that my discipline, my art, filmmaking, writing, is the most beautiful art on the planet, you know. So it's always better if you say it. By the way, I agree on one thing. I mean, for me, it's obviously the most complete expression as an artist. I remember when I was a student at high school for 5 years. The very first 3 years I learned how to draw, to paint, to take pictures, architecture, whole the history of art, and also developing 35mm films, you know, and I was saying, okay, it's cool, but I want more. So I bought a DV camera and I started to shoot things, you know, little things. So obviously I learned also by myself how to edit, to do some visual effects, VFX, and I discovered a new world, a world made of movements, of colors, of sound, and moreover lyrics and lines, because it was still not enough for me. So I bought a lot of books about writing because I wanted to understand how we write the stories. And I also discovered that actually all the stories are the same, you know, it's just the way you show it to the people. And the main thing I also discovered is that a script is actually the surface of an ocean. And yeah, that's it.
I wasn't aware of your work until I bumped into Autocannibalism. In my opinion, it's a real gem. And to be honest, I slept very badly that night. As a Venezuelan, I grew up immersed in a sensation of imminent violence, and your short film made me return to that feeling. It made me feel unease and distressed. To be able to tell the story of that group of boys and girls in such a violent night, using a mobile phone live recording as a resource to show that realism, is one of the more real new things that I have seen in a long time. How did you conceive Autocannibalism? How did it born?
Well, thank you very much one more time for all the good things you just said about my work. I didn't know it was my birthday. Well, what I want to say is that I'm happy and sad at the same time for you, you know. I mean, obviously as a director, to create those kind of feelings and emotions, first of all, it's not so much easy, but let's be honest, it was totally my goal, you know, to create fear or even anger. And also a part of me is sad because I know that some Venezuelan people could find this short film a little bit rude, but it's most of the time because of your backgrounds, and your stories, because most of you guys have a lot of sad and crazy stories like the one of Autocannibalism. By the way, I know that European people or North American people feel exactly the same, you know. Just that sometimes they find it a little bit far from reality, but actually it's their reality. And also in the situation and the actions of some characters, they don't really understand, but because they don't live in Caracas, they've never been in Caracas, and they, you know, New York City or LA or Paris has nothing to do with that, and this feeling of insecurity, of death at every corner is the fucking truth, and it's the fucking sad reality of your country. Now, about how I conceived Autocannibalism, well, you know, it's a mix of many things. It comes from, at first, how and where I grew up, but maybe I will develop later during that conversation. And violence was always one of my main themes, and you can see it in every of my works. So I guess that telling a violent story about violent people had to take place in one of the most violent cities in the world. I wanted to show it in the most violent way possible, and obviously it meant that I had to tell that story through the social networks, because for me Twitter, Facebook, and even now Instagram is pure violence.
Why is Venezuela in the story? Where does the connection with that country come from?
Well, everything started when I was a child, because few people know, but I grew up in La Martinica. So for the people who don't know, it's a French island at 700 kilometers from Caracas in the Caribbean Sea. And my dad was a cop. He was working against the international drug traffic, so he was collaborating with people from Venezuela, from Colombia, from Mexico, from the US too. And yeah, I grew up with violence. I had to go to school with malandritos, and I understand that you guess it was not super easy for me. So sometimes I have to act actually like a good cop. I had to act like malandritos. I have to think like them, and I have sometimes to fight like them. Until I was 18, it was like that. So by chance I was at what I consider as the right side of the violence, because growing up with cops, I learned a lot, and I know that today I'm thinking and I'm still acting like them. You know, I don't like injustice. I think for people who are close from me that I had a good education, so I'm nice with everybody. But obviously, if you pee on my shoes or if you break my balls, I totally twist and I can easily crush your head. But anyway, all of that to say that it was one more time obvious that I talk about Caracas because, as I said, one of my main themes is violence, and I put in a lot of details, and also this French character who is from French Guiana actually, and he was a military in the French Legion. One more time, I think that all of that made sense.
Some friends like Johanna Juliet and Alexander Leterny are actors in your film. Also, Johanna was in charge of the casting. The whole combination of the selected actors contributes a lot in the realism of the story. Now tell me, how was the process of directing the actors?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, all of the people you mentioned, but also Hallie and Sebastian were amazing. And, you know, I will not develop the reasons why I'm playing one of the main character, and actually I find it funny if some people think that it's because I have a big ego. I let them think whatever they want. No, actually the real reasons are more complicated than an ego question. I would prefer it was an ego question, but it was all about budget and production sheet and process, whatever. So all of that to say that I was really happy to work with those super talented guys, because I never considered myself as an actor. So to be surrounded by all of these professional people was super easy for me, because you know, I'm not an actor, I'm a reactor. So I was only in the reaction, and I think it works well on the screen. Now, you know, about directing actors, I'm not like that actually, because we do so much work before the shooting that actually everybody knows what they have to do. And also I'm super convinced that if you give the opportunity to actors and actresses to be free to propose exactly what they want, how they see the characters, they will do a super job. And this is exactly what happened, you know, when I see how Joanna worked, Ali and Sebastian, they are really hard workers, and you totally see it on the screen. And moreover, you know, we had the time to develop a kind of relationship as friends, because I consider them as friends today. And even if it was not so much easy to fight against Ali, because in real life he's a super nice person, but I think it was enough for trusting each other, and yeah, I guess that you see it in the short film.
There has always been around the discussion about if is it correct or not to create the story first and then to think about the format. Often the ideas come from the resources and not from the message. Now, speaking of Autocannibalism, did you come up with the story first, or did you think about the format before?
Actually, you know, I never try to go too far in the analysis of my work. I prefer that people talk about it, and it's the same about the creative process. I never ask to myself what came first. For example, I know that I always have many ideas, and because the themes I like to develop in stories are always the same actually, so I guess that I can easily join all of my ideas, and most of the time it matches. By the way, you know, I'm not focused only on violent things. I have many other ideas. It's just that I always try to take as much as distance as possible to say to myself, okay, it works, it matches. And also because I work more in a sensitive way, you know, I'm this kind of person who feel the things. And this is why I guess the result of every of my videos are super organics and viscerals. By the way, to come back on the writing thing, I think that one of the best mistakes I've seen in my career with young writers, and I'm really saying that in a humble way from my small experience, is to think that actually everything starts with a story. I really don't think so. Actually, I think that everything starts with characters. And when you write the background, the goals, the failures of your main character, you know what kind of story you want to say. So then you add other characters, the connection between them, and then you put them into a context, and then you have your story. And this is exactly what I did with Autocannibalism. And the concept actually is super simple, you know, it's the white knight who is going into the castle for saving the princess. Now, if you put this kind of story, because this kind of story is most of the time black and white, you know, you have the good guys and the bad guys, but if you put it in a context like Caracas, like Venezuela, it starts to be, in my opinion, super interesting, because it's not black and white, it's shades of gray. And also with my characters, you know, you find bolichicos, enchufadas, the character I'm playing is super arrogant, and actually he will pay the big price for that. And yeah, you don't know who you can trust, you don't know if you really feel empathy for all of this character. And the last thing is that I didn't want to go super far into the characters' arcs because of the concept. Because when you watch videos on YouTube or whatever, violent things that are happening, you know absolutely nothing about those people. So I wanted that we don't know so much about our characters, and I guess it also creates the surprise at some point because of their actions and reactions, and that's it.
While watching your film Autocannibalism, I felt the atmosphere that I have experienced with guys like Gaspar Noé, and it made me think of Irreversible and this hyper-realistic type of managing the narrative. Do you consider his work as a source of inspiration for your own work?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the work of Gaspar, well, I will say the first three movies of him always was a kind of inspiration for me, and I totally get that you can find some links with Autocannibalism and Irreversible, for example, except that Irreversible is more about revenge. Here it's not so much about revenge. But moreover, you know, Gaspar actually is a close friend, and he's one of the really few directors I really appreciate, because he's a guy super humble, and there are not so many good directors who are humble. And yeah, I really appreciate Gaspar. And I think that actually, you know, because Gaspar is almost 20 years older than me, but I think we find some echoes between his work and mine. And let's be honest, mine, you know, I only did music videos and short films and things like that. I mean, so I will obviously not compare myself as Gaspar and his career. But I think one more time, it's the way we are doing the thing is because of how we grew up, you know. Never forget that Gaspar grew up in Argentina in the 80s, and let's be honest, it was really, really bad situation, really violent. And I guess that maybe the way he's doing the things today is because of his childhood. Even if he moved, well, his parents moved or escaped from Argentina when he was, I don't know, maybe 10 years old or something like that. We never really talked together about that. But I guess one more time is that why we can find some echoes between our works, and that's it.
Have you ever thought that the story of Autocannibalism could be narrated as a feature film?
No, I think that this kind of experience, because this is an experience, has to be unique. Now, about the story, obviously it could be a 1 hour and a half movie. But one more time, you know, I think that the 20-minute experience of fear, anger, and tension all along is enough. And also 20 minutes, you know, it's perfect because it's the time that the battery of your iPhone needs to be warm and make your hands sweating. I think it's perfect like this. I mean, well, not perfect as a piece, but perfect as an experience, and it has to stay like that.
You have directed video clips in projects like Rave Yards, Huoratron, and Mr. Flash. All of those are very provocative and dynamic stories. What do you enjoy the most when creating video clips?
Well, after high school, I started my career as a graphic designer and a art director, and the very first things I did was arts for this French artist called Kavinsky. You can find his famous track called Night Call at the beginning of the movie Drive. And I continued at the other side to do my little videos in my apartment, and it was really little, really shitty and really bad. And I said to myself, okay, if you really want to do that, if you want to be a director, you have to work more. So I continued for 2 or 3 years, and one day, it was the time of MySpace. I heard that track of Huoratron called Corporate Occult, and I said to him, hey man, I really would love to do a music video for you. And he said to me, yeah man, but I don't have money. And I said, okay, you don't have money, but if you have time, give me the time to do the things, and I will do a super cool music video for you. And I was convinced about that. The thing I didn't realize is all of these tentacles 3D shit, because I never did 3D in my life. So I did this video, I guess, for 9 months, and then I shown it to the people, and I didn't expect that it will be relevant, and it was seen in like 2 weeks, 2 million of times, and I was like, wow, maybe you are not wrong. This job is for you.
As a filmmaker, what is it that appeals you? What kind of stories are you interested in to tell?
Well, you know, it's very simple. I just want to enjoy and to have fun. So what I do most of the time is that I take the rules of the industry and I try to twist them as much as possible. I always try to reinvent myself, and it's very important to me for every project I'm working on to do it like if it was the first time I do it. Because you know, not just as a director but also as a human, I'm this kind of person who refuses to be the same guy I was 1 year ago. So I'm constantly learning new things, trying to have new skills, and to update and upgrade and to be a better version than the one I was the year before. And one last thing is that I refuse to do twice the same things, because few people know, but some years ago when I did my very first music video called Corporate Occult, I didn't expect that it was so many views, millions of views in a few weeks. So my phone started to ring, and it was all of these good people from the US, from Hollywood. So Sam Raimi, Guillermo Del Toro, Steven Spielberg. So I met all of these guys, and actually they proposed me to transpose this music video as a feature film. And obviously, because I was young, I'd said yes, fuck yes. But actually, you know, after 6 months I realized that it will be horrible, it will be not as good as what it is in 5 minutes, because this is also something I do, is that if I have a project of 3 minutes, I create a story, I create something special for this timing. But yeah, when I realized that actually I will do a shitty movie in Hollywood, I said, okay guys, have a good day, goodbye, and that's it. And it was the best thing I did, actually.
Do you have in mind another band that you like work with?
Oh, for sure, there are a lot of artists I find super interesting, but you know, it's like for Hollywood, the problem is not so much the people I would like to work with, the problem is more the people I can work with. And by saying that, I mean that I only work with humble people, respectful people, people who just told me, man, I appreciate your work, and I would like you to feel free to propose something cool for my track. So it means that they totally trust me. Now, let's be honest, you know, when I started my career as a director, I was represented by one of the biggest international production company you can find, and it's called Partizan. And Partizan, for example, represent Michel Gondry. But when I started to meet all of the divas, queens, and pretentious people, you know, artists from the US, I will not say the name because, you know, they don't even, how can I say, deserve that I pronounce their names. But you know, I was just like, man, go fuck yourself. I have no time to lose with arrogant idiot like you. Because, yeah, one more time, as a human, you know, I can't tolerate those kind of people, you know. You can be Rihanna, you can be the Pope or my French president. If you are an asshole, you know, you just go fuck yourself, and I don't lose my time with that. So, in conclusion, this is why I did really few music videos. But I can say that it was because those guys were super artists and super humble.
Which are the advantage and disadvantage of being an independent filmmaker?
Well, the main big difference is all about money. If I accepted to play those kind of games I just described before, I would be super rich today. But I am who I am, so I prefer to have a humble life, to have less money, but I have the power to say no, and I have the power to say fuck you. And when I'm saying that, I'm not talking about the people I described it before, movie stars or super big producer, because if a project doesn't interest me, it doesn't interest me, that's all. I will conclude on this anecdote because it goes in the way of your question. What is to be independent? To be independent is to be free. And for the first time of my life, because as I told you, and people who worked with me can absolutely confirm, I'm not this kind of director who like to show his power, thinking he is a fucking god behind his combo and screaming on the people, having a Nazi attitude. But yet, for the first time of my life, I had to deal with the fucking most pretentious and arrogant director of photography I've never seen in my whole life, you know. I don't know, she's 25 something, and I guess she's convinced to be Roger Deakins, you know. And for 2 days, you know, I said to myself, fuck girl, you are really lucky that because there is no money, I'm obliged to be a director, to be an editor, to do the VFX, and also to act in it, because for making a parenthesis, I know that it irritates a lot of people, and actually it irritates myself, you know, to see my name like 4 or 5 times in at the end of a short film in the credits. But this is what happens when you don't have money, you know. I would prefer to just have my name 1 time as a director, but later I hope it will happen. So anyway, for 2 days I saw this person thinking that she was actually the director, so I was just laughing, you know, and she never listened to me, she never did what I asked. And I knew, because, you know, it's 10 years that I'm doing this job, and the first time I see someone like this, so I said to myself, girl, you will pay the price of your arrogance, don't worry. But the problem is that when I arrive in the editing room is that she confirmed what I thought, nothing worked. So for 9 months, because of this person, I had to recrop, to retime, to make invisible transition, because if you look closely at Autocannibalism, you will see that every 5 seconds it's not the same take, it's not the same shot. I created 3D fake lights, 3D shadows, well anyway. So all of that to say that from the moment the credits arrived, she saw that she was not in, and this is what I told her, no, you are the only person who asked to be paid on this project. You broke my balls. You thought you were I don't know who, so today you are not credited and you will be never. I make you pay the price of your arrogance, and today it's my turn to be pretentious. On every of my projects there is one boss, and it's me. So this will be my conclusion about what is it to be an independent filmmaker. Until the very last second, you keep the control of your project, okay? It's your baby, you are the father, and no one else has to try to take this place for you.
Last year you participated in the conceptualization of an EPK of La Vida Boheme. It's a great piece in which the narrator gives context for people to understand and to get to know this Venezuelan band. It was like if the spectator was waking up from a kind of coma. Could you tell us more about the creative process in that project?
Well, actually, it's funny that you talk to me about this video, because to be perfectly honest, I didn't even see it. I didn't watch the final result. But you are not the first person who is talking to me about this video, so I'm curious to see it. It was super quick, I know obviously Henry and Chevy from La Vida Boheme, and I guess it was because they saw the teaser of Autocannibalism, because it was not released at this period, and I guess they found it cool, this French accent, this strong French accent. And they told me, man, we are doing an EPK video, and we would like to know if you wanna give your voice to that project. And I said obviously yes. Now me, I just arrived at the studio, and I was kind of disappointed because I wanted to see the videos, because as I told you, I never consider myself as an actor, so I have to do different takes. It could have been more easy if I had the video down and I could find the perfect tone of my voice and the way I could say the things, but actually for, I guess, many reasons like budget and things like that, they prefer to record my voice first and then to put it on the video. But one more time, you gave me envy to watch this video, so I will watch it.
Working with clients, it's pretty different from managing your personal projects. We can find it in your portfolio, some advertising pieces for brands such as Converse. How do you carry out, as a director, with commercial projects in which there are rules and some goals defined by a client? How do you still keep your vision?
Oh, I will go super fast on that question. Same shit as Hollywood, same shit as pretentious and arrogant musicians. I mean, they are the worst. People from advertising agencies are the worst. I fuck them, they don't like me, I don't like them, it's perfect. Directors who are proud to do commercials, I absolutely don't give a fuck. I'm sorry to be so much stuff, but directors who pretend that they are super happy and they are super good commercial directors, they are only prostitutes. So of course when they work for Nike brand or Apple, whatever, they are high-class prostitutes. But when you work with advertising agency, you are just a prostitute, and that's all. And the only reason I accepted the job of Converse is because it was cute and funny. It was for Mother's Day, and I liked the idea of putting some sweet inside an heavy metal band. But you know, the rest, the few commercials I did in my life was just for money. I was a prostitute. I took the money, and that's it.
Each artist has an own way to approach their projects. What's the process you follow when creating a new story?
Or you know, I think that every filmmakers or directors are simply doing, writing, shooting the movie they would love to see on theaters or on the screen with Netflix, whatever. And I have a lot of stories and movies I would like to see, you know. I have many ideas for horror movies, for thrillers, and also even love stories. Now, as I said, I will only start to write all of them from the moment I'm sure I'm twisting the rules and I find an approach, a vision, and a style that is different from all what we already seen on the screen.
Do you have any suggestion for those who are right now starting to film their own stories but feel limited for not having the proper filmmaking equipment or the technical expertise?
Yeah, sure. I refuse the idea, and I give as an advice to every young filmmakers that you have to refuse the idea that because you don't have money and you only have an iPhone that you can't do something cool. And actually, I'm the proof of that, because many years ago when I did this corporate occult music video, I only had a DV camera with a shitty night shot effect. And yes, for 9 months I learned how to do fucking 3D tentacles. But today on YouTube you can find a lot of tutorials for everything, so it is possible. And I will conclude on that because I saw sometimes some bullshit about the budget of Autocannibalism, so I will be perfectly clear on that. Autocannibalism, it's $5,000, meaning that I obviously was not paid. Most of the people who worked with us were not paid, and I obviously did a lot of post-production on it. We shot it in 2 nights, and that's it. It was done. So obviously it was not shot with an iPhone, but by the way, you can have many ideas and to do something really cool. And trust me, if it's well done and if it's relevant, producer will be interested in it. There's absolutely no problems with that.
Next steps as director. Where is your career going to?
Yes, I'm currently working on 3 main things. Well, actually 4. During the last 2 years, I was writing a TV show for a TV channel called AMC. They produce Mad Men, Breaking Bad, and The Walking Dead. But sadly, it will not happen with them, and for the first time, it has nothing to do with egos, queens, and kings, because those people were really, really nice and really smart. I will say that it's for political reason. So I have to, repolish some things in here or there on the treatment and the first episode. Because I'm moving from Mexico for some moments. I will go to the French mountains in an house in the forest, and it's like this novel from Stephen King, Misery, except that I don't have a crazy psycho nurse with me. But I'm super happy to go there and to be alone, chill in the nature. I love that, really. I just finished to write my first feature film. It's called In the Sight of God, and it's a thriller, but I will not say more than this. And I will start to write my second movie. So the same, I can't say nothing, but you know, we never know in this job. Maybe the second movie I'm writing actually will be the first movie I will direct, and that's it. And yeah, the fourth project, I will absolutely say nothing, because it's nothing related to writing, to movies, short film or whatever. It's something I worked since 5 years now, but really few people know. I mean, only really close friends know that I'm doing this, and it's also an art. It's one another discipline, but you will know more at the end of the year.
Mr. Cédric Blaisbois, thanks a lot for your time. All the best to you and your new projects.
As I said, it was a pleasure to have this discussion with you, as I hope that for the people who were listening to you and we were not boring, because let's be honest, talking about myself is not what I like the most. You know, you always have the feeling that you have not so much interesting thing to say. But yeah, I hope that for the people who are into filmmakings or the director's job, it was a kind of relevant for them. Even with my anecdotes, I tried as much as possible to make them interesting. So now it's time to say goodbye.
Sobrepensar es una producción de The Thinkers original de Henry González. Muchas gracias por la visita. See you en la próxima rueda.